Hello, everybody, and welcome to this new moon astrological forecast using the Northern Tradition runes to look at the lunar cycle coming up from the 21st of September 2025. My name is Maggie Rose Cunningham. Now, I pre-record these sessions because there's so many different moving parts, but it's absolutely designed to be an interactive session. Make sure that you've got your cup of tea or whatever it is that you need to hand. If you want to have your runes, you absolutely can as well. I'm going to be talking a little bit about personal power runes, and I'm going to be doing a session in the half space on personal power runes after this as well, for those of you who are half space members, so that's available for you too. We're going to look at birth runes a little bit. We're going to look at how you can do your own personal reading so that when I take you through the astrological movements, so the movements of the planets through the runic wheel, you're able to then say, okay, so how do these energetic influences work for me in the context of what's happening right now in my life, but also in terms of my personal evolutionary pathway. So I wanted to say before we got started that in the Northern Tradition is similar to a lot of older world views in that it sees time as being a spiral, and you can see it as being an upward moving spiral. Each cycle of the wheel moves us upwards, or you can see it as moving outwards, a little bit like the world tree having its layers, the layers of its trunk building slowly over time. So the whole tree changes every cycle, every lunar cycle, every and solar cycle. And that's how it evolves. And it's not necessarily it's evolving to be better. Well, I think that's important. It's almost like the universe, the world, whatever you want to call it, the big, mighty, divine force of all, in which we are tiny little elements, every single one of us, every single little atom, is following its own evolutionary destiny. And each of us is part of that. And very much in the Northern Tradition, if you think about the hero's journey, or the idea that there are multiple lifetimes, that we get to go again. We don't have a linear, I'm born and I die and that's it. And there's a nice little fun bit in the middle where I'm young and healthy and vigorous and all of the things. No, we're continually in this spiral ourselves, and we're being reborn, we're going back down into the realm of the ancestors, and then at some point we'll come back up, or we might go to Odin's hall or Freya's hall, and then we'll get another go. So it's quite nice to think that we're part of that evolutionary process. We don't really want it to go backwards, do we? And I think that's important for us to recognize, is that there are layers building over time, and we get to participate in that. You will have your own personal evolutionary pathway, and then we will have the wheel of the year as it's spiraling through, and as particular energies become more available to us, as the big flow of fates governed by the big Nornir, Wyrd, and Skald, flow through the wheel of the year. And then we have our individual destinies that all contribute towards that as well. So I'm going to be sharing with you those big energetic forces that are coming through, so that you can say, okay, so this is where my pathway is taking me, and this is what is important to me right now. And this is what's happening out there in the world, which might help that. So I might get a bit of a power boost. So I'm in power boost mode at the moment. I'll tell you a bit about that in a moment. Or you might go, oh, wow, there's going to be some challenges here, so I need to bring a little bit of support in order to be able to move forward on that. So you can work on your understanding of your own personal destiny. You can do that with your spirit guides. You can do that by doing a rune reading for yourself, by saying which are the power runes that I should be working with right now. You can also do it, which is my preferred method, is with your birth runes. And this is where the evolutionary pathway comes in for me. I work with the North and South node, and this isn't something that I brought into this space before. I've worked within the Birth Rune Soul Journey group on the personal evolutionary path that is presented to us through the North and South node, but I haven't brought it into Runic astrology yet. But it is really important, because when we understand that we're each taking a journey, and that there's an intended evolution that is either easier or harder depending on what else is flowing, we can then say, okay, knowledge of my birth runes will help me to understand which runes, when they come up, are going to be the most potent and powerful for me. We're going to be working with what I call master pathways, and these come from my work in the North and South nodes, which I'm not going to talk about here If you're on Birth Rune Soul Journey, you'll know about that more. If you're interested, get in touch. But they are really helpful ways in to the readings that we're going to do, because they pair the runes. These evolutionary pathways pair the runes. So they take the rune on either side of the runic wheel and they say, okay, these two runes hold the space of this evolutionary pathway. And therefore that means that this energy is very vibey and present for us, but the runes themselves offer different ways into it. So tell me what you think. Tell me what you think as we go through the evolutionary pathways, whether it's helpful for you, because it's certainly a helpful way for me to think about runic astrology. So this is our runic wheel. This is a rough and ready rune circle that I've got with all of the runes of the Elder Futhark on this. Now, I'd like you to imagine for a moment, as we're just stepping into this space, every day, it's said, certainly every cycle, Odin goes to various different holders of wisdom to seek advice and guidance. And one of those places that he goes to is the Well of Wyrd. And the Well of Wyrd is at the base of the world tree. But when we do our new moon readings, I like to think about the Nornir sitting at the well. And it's dark, which means that the movements of the planets are more visible because we don't have a big old full moon. And that those are reflected within the waters. In a rune reading, we might take individual spheres and we might create a casting cloth, and we might say, well, this bit over here means this, and this mean over here means this, and then we throw the runes down and we do our reading. So we might look at the evolutionary pathways, for example, and say, which rune is governing this evolutionary pathway for me, this cycle? And you can absolutely do that. When we're doing astrology, it's like a mirror image of that. It's like a reflection. It's like the Nornir are looking into the well, and around the edges of we have the runes, and then we have the planets moving through. And as the planet hits a particular rune, as it moves into its sphere, it creates a ripple effect. So every rune has got its own resonance, its own vibration. So it's vibrating the water. So the water is a place of living energy when it's there and present within Urthasbrunn. And then as the planets move through, they subtly alter and shift that vibration. And that's how we can take a reading. So that's what we're going to be doing today. But instead of doing what I've done in the past, which is where we've taken a linear look and gone date by date, we're going to do this much more as a reading of the evolutionary pathways that are available. So if I don't say any dates or anything like that, remember that if you're a Sunna Star Wheel member, you can see all of the dates, every planetary movement laid out. So nice linear list. You've also got templates so that you can print out your rune circle and you can put your planetary movements on there as well. I have buttons that I'm going to be using for this reading. And we're going to start with the three major master pathways that are available to us through the course of this cycle. So these are where one or more planets is affecting the master pathway. So there are three master pathways that are particularly potent and available for us through the course of this cycle. The master pathway of creation or creativity, so your creator self, is available for you to work with, to explore, to potentize things like manifestation, things like learning, things like taking on new projects. All of these things are available to you at this present time as we work through this master pathway. We have the master pathway of collaboration, working with others, working with your spirit guides, working with your land, very available. And it's a great time to be actually looking at the collaboration, the relationships, because the final pathway that's available is the master pathway of influence. So it's very much about the creative potential that's available to you through working with others and through very strong relationships. And it might be that some of that is about going, are these relationships that strong? Do they need some TLC? Do they need to be completed at this point? So you can think about it in all of those different ways. That's the overall theme that we're going to be looking at. And I'm going to show you why now and how we can deepen into that a little bit. So let's start with the master pathway of creativity. So this cycle we're starting, we have a new moon over here in Kinaz. So Kinaz is the rune of creativity. It's the rune of transformation. It's the rune of physical transformation. So it's very much to do with work with the hands and actually manifesting in the physical sense. And with that new moon, there is a real opportunity for new beginnings, new possibilities. They're all there for you at this time. So that's really great. But it's not just that we've got the new moon in Kinaz. At the time of the new moon, the sun is also in Kinaz. So we're actually on the 21st or thereabouts. I can't remember exactly the date of the autumn equinox this time around, but the half month of Kinaz, the first half of the half month falls just before the autumn equinox, and the autumn equinox, or it's the spring equinox, obviously, for you if you're in the southern hemisphere, but that equinox period falls right in the middle of the Kinaz rune. So it's a really potent time. And I think that if you think about the equinox and the energy of the equinox and this need for balance, it talks so much to me, so much about creative processes. So there's the creative process of spring, if you're on one side with the equinox, of things birthing and new things coming to light. And then there's the creative process of autumn, when things are releasing, and you get things like the chlorophyll releasing from the trees, so that you don't see that green anymore. You see the colors underneath, you see the reds and the golds. It's this wonderful, brilliant time. It's also the time of the dawn over on the Carno rune, symbolizing the beginning cycle. So the spring equinox over here in the northern hemisphere, and the dusk here with the Kinaz rune. It's the time of night coming through. And it's about balance. It's about recognizing that our creative process requires us to have an idea, but then to adapt that idea to meet what our time constraints are and what our tools require of us, and what materials are available, and the skill set that we have. So it's a time of forging. And this is important because the creative pathway runs between Bacano and Kinaz. Kinaz being the rune of your ability to bring about transformation in the world, shaping the world into what you dream of. So you might be looking at, how able am I to make the things that I want to at this point, and what skills might I need, or what resources might I need to bring in. It's really talking about the creator self as the smith who forges and needs to have mastery of their tools. Now this contrasts with the Bacano rune, which is also part of the creator pathway, but it's about creating from what we are given. About saying, okay, I've received this, what am I going to do with it? Because it's the rune of fertility and abundance and what comes through from nature. And this is important because on the creator pathway, we have this very strong Kinaz energy right now, but we also have an underlying Bacano current that is coming through. And it's coming through because Loki's chariot and Aegir's chariot are in Bacano, and they're slow mover planets. So there's this undercurrent of Bacano energy that's here all of the time. And what that might mean is that we might have become acclimatized over the past months, even like the last year, to being in receiver mode, where we don't really feel as if we're in control, but we just have to roll with the punches and go with what's available to us. And that can be lovely and brilliant. We might experience times of abundance. Hooray, that's great. But we might also experience times of challenge and difficulty. And we've learned to surrender to that process. Aegir is the space of dreams and possibilities. And Loki is the space of constraint and freedom. So it's our sense of how much agency we have in any given context. And again, it's almost like bringing in our trickster selves there to say, okay, this has happened. How can I make this work for me? Bringing in the trickster, doing what I need to do, going under the radar if I need to, shape-shifting a little bit if I need to try and manifest the dreams that I have for the world. But when the world sometimes brings in something totally different to what I would actually really like. So that's the current that we're used to. And then this Kinaz current is here, and it's saying, no, step into your power right now, become the smith or the forger. This is an important time period for us with this Kinaz and Bacano energy. So that's the path of the creator, and that's why this is particularly strong. Now, Sunna is going to move and activate other pathways, and the moon will also be activating another rune when he with Mani moves into the full position, and we'll look at that in a moment. So I'm going to take these ones. Am I going to take these ones off? Oh, let's see, let's experiment. I'll keep them on for a moment so you get that sense that there's our creative pathway. So let's now look at the path of collaboration. which is our next master pathway, which is very strong, very active, very potent right now. And that is coming about with the rune Gibo and with the rune Ewaz. And we're going to look at the Gibo rune first of all. So this place of collaboration comes through not only because of the Gibo rune, but also because of Forseti's Hall. So here's my little button I like to represent the halls. Now, it's quite unusual at this point. So Forseti's Hall opens on the 22nd of the cycle. So really quickly, and forgive me, I'm just going to have to move this up because there's a little bit of weightiness on my screen and I don't want you to not to be able to see what we're doing. So if the screen flickers, it's just because there's a bit of weight in my camera stand and it keeps pulling it ever so slightly down. So apologies that if you sometimes get a bit of flickering. So it's a bit unusual this month because we're going to move into Forseti's Hall. Now, Forseti is a mediator, this god of justice, but in a mediation sense. And we're going to move into his hall on the 22nd, so on the second day of this lunar cycle. So it's pretty much, let's just say pretty much, this is Forseti's month. So Forseti is the son of Bragi, is the god of poetry. And he is over here and he's governing these runes. Okay. So the Kinaz rune, the Gibo rune, and the Wunjo rune, all of those, this is his hall right here. So this is where we are for all of this month. And so he potentizes this collaborative energy. Because if you've got any problems with your collaborations, Forseti is a brilliant deity to invoke because he's an arbiter. So if you're having any challenges, go and have a chat with Forseti about them. And he's available to us for the entire lunar cycle. So he offers some really fabulous blessings through the course of this time. Now, if we look at the Gibo rune, Odin also moves into, he's going to move into Gibo on the 22nd. So here's his little button here. So he moves out of Kinaz into Gibo. So he's been in Kinaz introducing this creator energy. And then he just moves on the 22nd. And he's starting to push our wheel forward and draw us out of the creator cycle into the collaboration cycle, which brings in Gibo and Ewaz over here. And Gibo governs contracts. You could think about this as being soul contracts or promises. There could be formal contracts. There could be legal contracts. And it might be that you need to undo some of those contracts, or it might be that you need to make new contracts. And that's possible for you at this time, that you're able to do that and actually make those new contracts for yourself at this point. Odin really offers the opportunity to give voice to contracts that might be in the subconscious mind, or to rewrite them as well. If you think that he's just been in the path of the creator path, and he sort of said, oh, these are the things that I want to create. It might be, oh, I want to create this. What are the partnerships? What are the promises? What are the oaths that I have made or that have been made to me that now need to be renegotiated to allow this, what I want to create, to manifest itself, to unfold? So Odin leads the way into that energy of Gibo. And then Sunna's chariot joins Odin on the 30th. Sunna's chariot moves into Gibo as well. So she's potentizing this, which is why these are powerful pathways for us at this point. And then at the very end of the cycle, Frigg's chariot here will also move into Gibo. So she's making her own journey. By that point, Odin's chariot will have moved out. But you can see how through the course of this cycle, Gibo is going to have a lot of really oomphy, resonant energy there. That means that, okay, I can look at this. So at the very beginning of the cycle, you're looking at renegotiating contracts with Odin. When Sunna moves in, this is often about making promises yourself, about doing that in joy. Saying, oh, no, I'm really positive about this. It's also the act of gifting and generosity, remembering that where Odin might say, they said that we should do this, and then this says that this should do this, and it's quite a transactional relationship. Sunna brings in much more the sense of generosity. So it might be the sense of, okay, what relationships might I want to strengthen through the act of gifting, and what might I want to give gratitude for to strengthen these partnerships energetically. And then we have at the very end Frigg moving into Gibo as well. And she governs relationships. She governs all sorts of social relationships. So this might be about saying, actually, how do I oil the wheels of these collaborative partnerships? How do I need to spend more time with particular people? Do I need to bring more awareness to this? What are the rituals that we are creating that maintain these partnerships for ourselves? So she brings that energy in, and that transfers into the next cycle as well. So the energy slightly shifts through the course of the month. So you might want to look at it in terms of those three things as these different planets enter the Gibo rune, recognizing that anytime you get into trouble, go and have a little visit to Forseti, and he can often help with those if you're like, okay, there might be renegotiations that need to take place, or I've made an offer of a gift or something like that, or I've been in gratitude but I'm not receiving what I thought that I would. Is a great time to work with Gibo, because Gibo is that energy of reciprocity comes through. Now, I said that we're on this master path, and it's not just Gibo that's activated through this time. We also have the full moon in Haglaz. So at the time when Sunna's in there as well, and she's activating too, the moon Mani's chariot moves into Haglaz, and Haglaz brings a very different energy to this master pathway. And this is the energy of synergy. So this is about recognizing that it's like the complement of opposites. No, that if it's the rune of the horse and the rider and of speed, and recognizing that if the rider sets an intention, so I want to be over here. So again, we've been in our creator pathway, so we might say, oh, I want to create this, and then so I want to move forward with that. I set my intention, and I might enter into some promises, some contracts in order to get that done. But then the Haglaz rune says, who needs to be in the lead right now? Who's setting that intention? And if you then find your steed, the rider and the steed together will go faster in the right direction. Now, the steed will go fast regardless, but if the rider is there as well, they'll go in the right direction together. And it's a partnership between, Haglaz is a partnership between a weak predatory animal, namely a human being, and a strong prey animal, namely a horse. So it's this union of opposites. And Haglaz doesn't work with written contracts. Not interested in written contracts whatsoever. It's interested in this sort of synergy or this harmony, this flow. You might think about it as being a dance. So there'll be times when the rider will say, this is the direction that we need to go into. Move forward now. And we'll hold the reins and direct the steed, perhaps where it doesn't want to go. Perhaps if there's some fear, the steed might pull back from that. But then there will be other times when the steed will know this is a better way to go, or I need to change my footing, or there is danger this way and I don't want to do that. And so the power moves backwards and forwards between the horse and rider based on the environment. It's very responsive to the environment, what's actually going on at the moment, whereas the Gibo rune finds that much more difficult to do. Okay, so that is our power pathway of collaboration. And then I said that there was a third power pathway available to us, and this is the power pathway of influence. And specifically, this is influence in terms of relationships for this particular one. This one is the path of Wunjo. So it's the rune Wunjo. And that is because we will have Odin's chariot. Now he's going to be moving into Wunjo as well, because he moves quite fast. Odin, the sun, and Frigg all move relatively fast. So they cover these, a group of runes each cycle, and they will do so within the hall as well. So the hall will be there. They're all together. So this is why you get these power pathways that activate through the course of a particular cycle quite fast. Whereas other ones, as I've mentioned with these planets here, those will be longer periods of time, but we might feel the energies more subtly, and we might feel them at a collective level, whereas we might feel these much more intensely. Our power pathway with Wunjo activates, and Wunjo is not just a rune of influence, it's a rune of relationships, and its partner rune right down here is the Manaz rune of sovereignty. But Manaz isn't going to be activated through the course of this cycle. It's just the Wunjo rune. So it's very much about relationships and kith and kin and joy. It emphasizes that energy of gratitude, but also of pleasure. No, it's that sense of the pleasure of being together, which we can sometimes miss, particularly if we're like, oh, I want to move forward with this, and we can get very fixated on this is what we're doing. and forget that sometimes it's just about being together that becomes important. So the Wunjo rune will slowly activate through the course of the cycle, and Sunna will catch up to Odin in Wunjo on the 15th of October. They'll get there. So they will actually be in Wunjo ahead of Frigg getting into Gibo. So this is why all of these energies will be present during the course of the cycle, because different planets will activate these runes. So Frigg will still be here at the end of the cycle, but these two planets will have moved into, not planet obviously, with the sun. And this will be a time, it's really that there's a sense of thanksgiving, I think, that comes here, and a sense of saying prioritize relationships simply because they're important. Where the Manas rune talks about influence in terms of I'm setting a goal, I'm creating a vision, who will come on board with me, and it calls people to it and says, do you want to join me? Wunjo says, I want to be with you. I want to be with you. I enjoy being with you. There is pleasure in your company. And this can be other people coming to you and saying, I want to be with you. But it can also be you saying, I want to be with others. I want to commune with others. So the Odin's chariot in Wunjo will talk about what can you do in terms of your words, just saying to people, you know what, you're really important to me. No agenda, no overt influencing. It's recognizing that we influence from a place of trust, and the relationship comes first. And then the influencing, whatever it is that you want to do together, you say, oh, we'll go to this amazing party, come with me. If you've spent time with a person before that point, then they're more likely to say, oh, yes, I'd like to come and do this thing with you. I say party because for me, going to a party would be a bit like, do I know everybody? And I hesitate. And for somebody else, it might be, do you want to come bungee jumping with me? Or I don't know, something that's you invite somebody to do that's outside of their comfort zone. They are more likely to do it if they are already in relationship with you, because you have built trust. So the Wunjo is so important for relationship and trust building before we get into this sort of mana space. So it's saying, remember that don't just go and ask for something when you want it and expect somebody to say, oh, yes, absolutely, I totally will do that, if you haven't invested in the relationship beforehand. And then Sunna coming in is so much about the healing power of relationships and family and community, and very much chosen family as well. I think that's important, bearing in mind that we're talking about the evolutionary pathway. How do we contribute to those relationships? What do we bring to them? You might spend a little bit of time saying, what is it that I contribute? Remember, we've got the Haglaz rune, our full moon Haglaz rune, which is about partnerships. It might be about, what is it that I contribute to my partnerships with my friends? I often find it easier to say, oh, with this friend, I know exactly what it is that I get from those friendships and how wonderful and fabulous it is, but I don't really know at all most of the time what it is that my friends see in me. Why do they want to hang out with me? Because I'm me, so you can't see that. So it could be quite nice to just ask somebody sometimes, you mean so much to me, and when I think about what we do together, I really love it and I really enjoy it. I want to be the best possible friend that I can be to you. What is it that I do or say, or my mode of being, whatever it is, that means that you want to be my friend, because I'd like to give more of that. That sort of thing can absolutely happen. It's a healing possibility. The Sunna's chariot always brings healing possibilities when she moves into a particular rune. Okay, so those are our three major power pathways through the course of this cycle. There are some, let's call them like lesser power pathways that are available to us too, because there are runes sort of moving in and activating them. So I'll have a little bit of a look at them now. So the path of right action is just slowly starting to fade at this point. This is the Rado rune. So the Rado rune goes from Rado through to, I want to check, but it could be Soal or Tewaz. Sometimes I get them a bit when I haven't looked at a particular power pathway. But the Rado is the power pathway on this side that's being activated. So Rado brings that sense of rhythm and of moving forward and of ritual motion with it. It's setting habits and going in the right direction as you're doing that. Let's have a little look, because I can work it out from, if it's Kianaz and Bacana, then it's Rado and Tewaz. So there you go. I don't know why I found it that difficult. Tewaz is much more about saying, I set an intention and then I move towards that, the arrow in flight. This is my truth. I will follow it now. Rado says actually it's the routines and the rituals that sometimes hold us, and we don't actually even really know what we are thinking or feeling, but we've set those rituals and we follow them because we have to do things sometimes at the subconscious level, and we have to move in order to find out where our next arrow should point. So this is intentional, in the moment, follow your instinct, shoot the arrow movement. Whereas Rado is, I'm on a journey, this is the road that I'm following, I'm moving on it, there's the destination, and I'm just going to keep going step after step, even if I'm not sure exactly what the outcome is going to be. I'm still going to keep moving that direction. So there's a tenacity that comes with the Rado rune as well, and why we set habits that mean, I don't know, I want to learn a new hobby. Rado says, okay, then I have to do that little bit by little bit. I can't just shoot an arrow and say, now I know everything that I need to know. The right action has to be practicing, to get to that point. So with our Rado rune, Frigg's chariot moves out of Anzu's and into Rado. So she's holding that space. So the journey that she takes through the course of this cycle is finishing that path of right action and moving into the creativity and then into the path of collaboration. She's in the path of right action at the very beginning of the cycle. So if you're still looking at the beginning of the cycle to create routines, particularly routines with other people. So if there are things that I meet with my accountability group and we had a little bit of a reset moment, I've met with one of the people in my team today and we were like, how often do we want to meet? Hold those relationships, because it's Frigg's chariot, so relationships is the important thing, and hold those partnerships, which is also on the master pathway that's coming up. You do those sorts of things. Creating routines for connection is very much still available to you in the beginning parts of this cycle. We have the path of evolution being held by the rune of Haglaz. So this is Tyr's chariot. Tyr is going to move. So Tyr was in Wunjo, the beginning of the cycle. Hooray! There in doing his thing. And then he's going to move on the 3rd of October into Haglaz. So actually I should have probably put him there in the beginning one, shouldn't I? Because he's there, and that again highlights the importance of relationships through the course of this whole cycle and our ability to influence and work with others. But Tyr moves out of this sense of, what's the word I want to use, of prioritizing, trusting relationships, family, kith and kin, and sending our energies towards that, into Haglaz, which is a space of disruption. This is why it's on the evolutionary pathway, which it shares with Laguz, which is a gateway between worlds. Haglaz is the hailstone that destroys what is no longer needed. It's a disruptor rune. So remember I was talking about Tewaz over here? Very much, it's Tyr's rune. It's his rune there. This is about following your truth. So this is why this is the path of evolution. It's saying, I need to follow my truth. Sometimes I need to be the disruptor. And it tends to be that when we have Tyr's chariot in Haglaz, if we don't allow ourselves to become the disruptor, to do the thing, even if we don't necessarily really want to do it, Tyr will become the disruptor for us. So you might experience some things that you're like, oh, this is all being shaken up and I wasn't really ready for it. It's the influence of Tyr's chariot from the 3rd of October. Or you can say, actually, how do I become the hailstone? How do I put to one side things that are no longer working for me? How do I make room for what needs to come through? Laguz is more of a creative force that then comes through and fertilizes and rebirths, but Haglaz is the work that needs to be done beforehand to strip away. So you can see within it, these runes all have that slightly autumnal stripping away energy, whereas you've got the Kano is more of the springtime energy there. So we've got the Kinaz, the balance and the taking charge and taking responsibility can often come forward quite a lot. Haglaz, it's the same sort of thing. So how do you become the disruptor? How do you claim your own evolutionary pathway and perhaps take some difficult decisions to allow that to come through for you? So it's a minor pathway, but it's an important one. And Odin will, when does he move into Haglaz? Does he move into Haglaz? Bear with me and let me check. Yes, he does, on the 12th, so towards the end of the cycle, but still quite early. The last week, I would say. Odin is in there as well in Haglaz. So Tyr is action. taking action. Odin is words, you know. So Tyr moves on the, when does he move with me? On the 3rd. Sorry, I've already said that, haven't I? Tyr moves on the 3rd. Odin joins him on the 12th. So that can actually make things a little bit easier, because sometimes it's about like telling people that you're going to do the thing. So it might be that you say, okay, Tyr's chariot will stay in Haglaz for a period of time. It doesn't move every cycle. So if you feel that real impetus to say, oh, I really need to shed this skin, or I need to let go of this thing, you can commit to it on the 3rd. So, right, this is going to happen, and I know what action I'm going to take. But then you can communicate to people from the 12th with harnessing Odin's chariot's energy, that what it is that you intend to do, and you can draw in those partnerships of collaboration as well and say, okay, what supporters might how can I bring in support for this? Can be quite important. It's also important because until that point, you're doing your relationship building piece in Wunjo, aren't you? So if there's something that you really want to do and you know that maybe it's not going to be that popular, do the relationship building first. No, then you can move into Haglaz and say, no, I need to make these difficult decisions. Will you help me to make them? Okay. Now we have the master pathway of Wyrd weaving, which I quite like, the master pathway of Wyrd weaving. And this is held by 2 runes for us. So the Perthro rune is holding the energy of Helheim, of the realm of the ancestors up here. This is big karmic change coming through. We're reaping the consequences of many generations of progress, in particular at this period of time. And it's this sort of cauldron of change and possibility that is very much about long-term evolutionary changes that humanity has been making. And how do we, what's the word I'm looking at? How do we evolve to meet the consequences of those changes is essentially what Hela is holding for us right there. But through this period as well, Thor's chariot will move. So he's going to move out of phase. So he's been in a space of lovely abundance. It's been very nice. Might not have been as easy to manage long-term wealth acquisition, let's say, at the moment, but for some of us at least, there will have been opportunities to bring in abundance and wealth and to allow that flow to come through a little bit more with Thor's chariot. Now he's going to move into Uruz, which is on the other side of this master pathway. And this is, whereas Perthro is a flow, it's a little bit like, I was talking about the Bacano energy, where we can feel a little bit of a sense if we have to respond. Perthro is very similar. Uruz is the source of our strength and our willpower. And so this is about our ability to weave our Wyrd, to weave with fate, to undertake our own healing, to follow our evolutionary pathway, to gather in our strength, so that we can participate in the evolution of the all, let's say. And when Thor comes in, he really governs the realm of Midgard. So he really governs our world, our realm. So this, what I want to say, it changes the energy from one of flow and possibility and serendipity, where we have to reap whatever comes our way, into one of intentional seed sowing, a little bit of heads down, your little aurochs horns. You see there, I'm not going to be able to do my hand upside down, but that's the sort of Uruz rune the wrong way up. These are the horns of the aurochs here, bringing our fierceness to our work and to protecting our homes and to building the world that we want to see. Perthro is the consequences that we can't really control and we have to respond to. Uruz is the way that we respond to that, the strength of the aurochs, and recognizing ourselves as participants in the natural world in which we live. You know, this is a real rerouting there as well. Now, if you want to be able to weave with Wyrd, you need to be participating in the world around you, being present in nature. It comes through very strongly. If you think about Thor as being the protector of Midgard, the protector of our world, he's saying, and you're part of that. What are you protecting? What will you take your stand for? Where will you say, I am part of the flow of Wyrd and I choose this direction? So yeah, it's a nice little undercurrent there, and Thor's chariot does bring in that quite strongly for us. And I think it'll be quite nice. It feels like a stabilizing energy for me through the course of this period of time. So if you're feeling a little bit, oh, you know, I've said that Forseti is a great guide to go to, but Thor's actually quite useful as well here if you're looking for greater stability. I think the final master pathway that we're going to talk about, oh yes, indeed, is Urd's chariot. So Urd is over here. She's in Ingu's. There she is. This is the master pathway of instinct, of following our instincts, of self-trust, self-belief. It is opposite North's, which is the rune of necessity. North is standing on the hill, lighting the need fire, saying, I need this now, and taking action. Ingu's is a move inside. It's preserving your resources. It's sowing the seeds that are going to take a while to manifest. It is following those instincts for survival. What's the word I want to learn? By storing, essentially. Northa says, I don't have anything. I'm lighting my fire and asking the gods to assist me. Ingu says, when I have my little stock of seeds, now I've got my stock of seeds, in order to survive, I'm going to need to take those seeds and open my hand up. Some of them I'm going to have to eat. You know, some of them I'm going to have to eat. Some of them I'm going to have to sow, or there will be nothing for next year. Some of them I'm going to sacrifice to the gods or to fate, whatever it is that you want to call it, to ask for their help and their support. So it's quite steady, determined action, quite quiet action as well. Urd's chariot is the chariot of the Nornir, and it is that pushing forward of fate and change. And again, it's that sense of participating in that. And it is saying we need to be able to trust our instincts and to follow them and to, oh, what's the word I want to look for? There's so much uncertainty. There's so much chatter out there in the world, isn't it? So it's very much it's saying find a quiet place. Connect with your instincts there, because it's incredibly difficult to connect with your instincts when we're out there in the world when it's so loud, right? It's so loud. So those are our major planetary movements for this cycle. Now, I mentioned that you can do readings for yourself, so you could choose some of the master pathways that I've talked about, and I am going to post the master pathways out to Sunna Star Wheel members as well, so that you can see all of the master pathways and not just the ones that I'm talking about today. So you could do your own personal reading on those master pathways that are active at this present time. You could do a rune reading for yourself in any way you want to and see, are there runes that come up that are also particularly active that I want to harness and work through the course of this cycle. If you know your birth runes, you will know where that potent energy is. So for me, Kinaz is my North Node rune, which it means it is my evolutionary pathway rune, which is why I started thinking about evolutionary pathways and realized that this was really a useful way, certainly for me, and let me know how I thought about it for you, of working with my runes. Certainly this cycle, we might do it again in future cycles if you found it helpful. For me, the sun in Kinaz and the moon in Kinaz it's already like really strongly supporting me on my master pathway of creativity, which is to the comfort zone is the responsive place with the Bacano, in that energy of responding to what's available and being present to that, reactive in some sense, creating with what is there. Whereas the Kinaz rune is creating what isn't there yet with my own hands and make it happen. And that's my evolutionary path. And I've certainly felt a real like supercharge energy coming through with Kinaz through this period of time. I've been waiting for it for quite a long time. I've been in the sort of patient place of Ingu's in particular. So I'm saying, I'm breathing into this, what's coming. And this feels really good for me. Interestingly, with the lunar nodes at the moment, we're pointed in the other direction. So the lunar nodes were pointed towards Bacana. So I was really struggling because the energies were going counter to my own master pathway. So I've really struggled over the last sort of 9 months. It's changed now and I've found a real freeing. But this Kinaz energy is really powerful for me. So have a look at your birth runes and say, okay, which master pathways, which runes do I have that are the same? What does the master pathway tell me? It's a little bit of a shorthand to help you to get into the runes. And where might there be some supercharge energy for me that's going to allow me to move forward on my evolutionary pathway a little bit quicker right now, which is essentially what the runes, and I think certainly what runic astrology is there to support us in doing. No, that's what it is there for. So finding your evolutionary pathway and the runes are supporting you in that. So let me know which runes are the power runes for you, which master pathways spoke to you today. What are you particularly looking forward to from this cycle, from what I've said about what's available? What feels, oh, I'm not sure about that, or I might need a little bit of support with that? Let me know. If you're thinking, oh, I want to, how do I work with Facetti? How do I, how do I get comfortable with the Haglaz rune? Whatever it is, let me know and let's see what we can do. And just a quick reminder that in the heart space, you can come and you can join me for our session where we're going to be working with Kinaz as a personal power rune. And I look forward to seeing you very soon.